This is the story of a boy who was never supposed to be born. A boy whose mother tried to end her pregnancy, but fate had other plans. So stick with us, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because you're about to hear the incredible true story of how Cristiano Ronaldo became a legend. Over the years, the saga of Ronaldo and Messi has been glorified so much that it's easy to become numb to their genius. We're told to appreciate them both, and that's absolutely right. But the truth is, their careers are so far beyond exceptional that it's hard for our minds to truly grasp the scale of their greatness. They've given us decades of entertainment, constantly defying what we thought was possible for a human being to achieve on a football pitch. They deserve to have their stories told, not just through statistics, not just through highlight reels, but through the whole epic journey. How did they come to be? How is it even possible to become Cristiano Ronaldo? He's in good shape. That's typical. Absolutely brilliant. Our story begins before he was even a thought in the late 1960s with his father José Diniz Aveiro. A man of part Cape Verdean descent, Diniz was forced into mandatory military service for Portugal. He was shipped off to Angola, a world away, to fight a brutal colonial war against locals demanding their independence. The conditions for the soldiers were hell on earth. They often had no clean drinking water. Food supplies would rot in the African heat, and the men would be left to starve. They were completely unprepared for the diseases that awaited them. Many would succumb to malaria far from home. For 18 long months, Diniz lived amongst constant death and suffering. When Angola eventually won its independence, Diniz returned home. But the Portugal he came back to was a broken nation. It had poured its resources into a losing war and had fallen into a deep economic pit. There were no jobs, no opportunities. He was left to wander the streets of Madeira, a ghost haunted by what he'd seen wallowing in his own misery. It wasn't long before he developed a drinking habit, a habit that quickly spiraled into full-blown alcoholism. Over the next decade, he and his wife Dolores would have 3 children. He found work as a gardener and took a side gig as a kit man for the local football club Madeira. But the family was constantly teetering on the edge. A major crisis hit when Dolores discovered she was pregnant for a 4th time. They looked at their finances at their tiny, cramped home and decided there was simply no way they could afford another child. Dolores went to her doctor and asked for an abortion, but he refused. Believing she had no other choice, Dolores took matters into her own hands. As she later confessed, she tried to force a miscarriage herself. She would drink boiled black beer until she couldn't stand, and then she would run. She would run and run until her body screamed in fatigue, only stopping when she physically couldn't take another step. But she failed. And so, on the 5th of February 1985, at 10:20 in the morning, in the city of Funchal, Madeira, a baby boy was born. They named him Cristiano Ronaldo. Dolores decided to keep and raise the baby, holding on to a new belief that she had failed to abort him because God had a great destiny waiting for her child. Despite making it into this world against all odds, his life was just as grim as Dolores had feared. The family struggled to make ends meet, living in a tiny home with a tin roof and no electricity. Cristiano shared a single room with all 3 of his siblings. On Christmas, there were no gifts. Like most kids in his neighborhood, Cristiano took to the streets to play football. It was his escape. He was gifted, you could see it immediately, but he had a fiery temper. The other children nicknamed him Coral, which roughly translates to crybaby, because he would burst into tears of frustration whenever his teammates failed to play up to his impossibly high standards. Seeing his passion, his parents enrolled him at Madeira, the local club, where his father was the kit man. There his love for football blossomed into an obsession. It reached a point where he would carry a football with him everywhere he went. His dedication sharpened his talent, making it shine even brighter amongst the other kids. Soon he earned another nickname, Abelhinha, or Little B. He was tiny compared to the other boys, but he was incredibly fast, buzzing all over the pitch. Less than 3 years later, in 1995, Nacional, one of the biggest clubs in Madeira, signed him. Tales of this wonder kid had reached them from one of their scouts, who had no trouble tracking him down. The scout was, in fact, Cristiano's godfather. His time at Nacional was a revelation for the locals. He was so good that he was constantly moved up to play with older academy teams, to the point where he was playing with boys 3 years his senior. And to the shock of everyone, he still managed to be the captain. The word spread like wildfire across the island, an island that had never produced a player good enough to even be called up for the Portuguese national team. But a kid had arrived, and he was destined to conquer the world. A local man with strong connections to Sporting CP, one of Portugal's giants, was introduced to Ronaldo. He was so blown away by the boy's skills that he immediately called Aurelio Pereira, a legendary sporting scout, and pleaded with him, "You have to see this kid." Pereira agreed to a tryout, but with one condition: Ronaldo had to come to Lisbon. That very day, the 12-year-old boy talked to his mom. And just like that, he was leaving his humble roots behind to go fight for his dream. He walked onto that training pitch in Lisbon, knowing he was being tested, knowing his entire future rested on this one performance. And in what might have been one of the very first times he showed it, Ronaldo revealed just how brilliantly he performs under pressure. He was so magnificent, so breathtakingly skillful among the Sporting Academy players that the professional players training on the pitch next door stopped what they were doing. They all moved over just to watch this skinny kid from Madeira play. He left the entire club speechless. They signed him on the spot. But this led to the most difficult decision of his young life. He would have to leave his family at just 12 years old to go live by himself at Sporting CP's academy, all on the fragile hope that one day he would make it. Being from Madeira, Cristiano had a very thick, distinct accent, and the other boys at the academy relentlessly mocked him for it. The loneliness and the bullying plunged him into a deep depression. He was so down that in his first year, the coaches sent him back home to Madeira, believing he couldn't possibly focus on football while his heart was so heavy. Back in Madeira, his family rallied around him. They showered him with love and support, telling him that he had to be strong, that he had to ignore the people who wanted to see him fail. Their words lit a fire in him. A young Ronaldo realized that his potential was a gift and it could not be wasted. The next year, he steeled himself, powered through the pain, and went back to Sporting CP. Eventually, the other players, the ones who had mocked him, became his new family. Being an academy player for one of Portugal's biggest clubs sounds like a dream, and it is, but the conditions were still far from glamorous. The rooms were tiny, and Ronaldo hated them. He would only go there to sleep, spending every waking moment either on the training pitch at school or roaming the streets of Lisbon. Money was still incredibly tight. In those early years, he and his friends had a habit of going to the local McDonald's late at night, asking the employees for any leftover burgers they were about to throw away. 2 of his most difficult years came after he turned 14. Despite the supportive environment he'd carved out for himself at the academy, he was still bullied at school. He tried to ignore it to remain calm, but one day, a teacher mocked his accent in front of the entire class. Ronaldo, furious, talked back. But instead of realizing his own cruelty, the teacher doubled down, mocking Ronaldo's family for being poor. In that moment, something inside Ronaldo snapped. He grabbed a chair and threw it at the teacher. That same day, he was expelled. He called his mom, and another life-altering decision came from that conversation. Ronaldo decided to leave school entirely and focus full-time on his football career. This put an immense, almost unbearable pressure on his young shoulders. He could not allow himself to fail. There was no safety net. He had to give it everything. He was just a kid making a choice that would define his entire life. No school, no backup plan, only football. What do you think you would have done in his shoes, that kind of pressure at that age? Let me know your honest thoughts down in the comments. Just as he committed his entire being to this path, something completely out of his control came along to nearly ruin his life. At the age of 15, Ronaldo was diagnosed with racing heart syndrome. It meant his heart would race uncontrollably even when he was resting. How could a professional athlete, someone whose entire life depended on extreme physical effort, possibly have a career without compromising his life? That same week, Ronaldo had to undergo heart surgery. Take a second to imagine that. You're a 15-year-old boy who has left his family, dropped out of school, and bet his entire future on a single dream. And now a doctor is telling you that the very source of that hope, your own heart, could take it all away from you. The first week passed in a blur of anxiety. But fortunately, the laser surgery went smoothly. And just a few days later, he was back in training. Over these years, Ronaldo had proven his value so many times that he flew through the academy's rankings, always playing with boys far older than him. This led to him being called up to Portugal's youth national teams again and again, scoring a total of 18 goals in 34 appearances across the different age tiers. But as he turned 16, he became eligible to play professionally. And the Sporting CP coach at the time, Laszlo Bologna, was not going to let that opportunity be wasted. Ronaldo became the first player in the club's history to play for the under-16, under-17, under-18 B team, and first team all in a single season. His official debut in the Portuguese league came in 2002, a few months after he turned 17 in a match against Moreirense. Ronaldo went all in. He put the ball in the net almost as soon as the game started, but it was heartbreakingly ruled offside. He tested the keeper's reflexes again a little later, refusing to be denied. Then just before halftime, he collected the ball near the center circle. He dribbled past not one, not two, but every single Moreirense player in his path before calmly chipping the ball over the helpless keeper to score his first ever competitive goal. In that same game, he showed just how much he loved the feeling, grabbing his second goal in the final minute of the match. He would finish the season with the third highest goals per minute ratio in the league behind only the team's two main strikers, an incredible feat considering he was playing as an attacking midfielder. His performances caught the eye of many of Europe's elite clubs, including Manchester United, who wanted to sign him and then loan him back to Sporting so he could continue his development. But his fate would be sealed on the 6th of August, 2003. Sporting had built a new stadium in preparation for Euro 2004, and for its inauguration, they invited Manchester United to play a friendly match. It's hard to put into words what happened that day. Ronaldo was a man on a mission. He looked simply unplayable. An 18-year-old was single-handedly terrorizing the Manchester United defense. He got his first assist by the 25th minute. By halftime, he was all the United players could talk about in the locker room. The second half was just as impressive. Before the match ended, he created the chance for Sporting's third goal as they stunned Manchester United, winning 3-1. On the plane home, the United players were buzzing, telling tales of the Portuguese wonder kid they had just faced, begging their legendary manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, to sign him. Only 6 days later, Ronaldo was arriving in Manchester. He was the first ever Portuguese player to be signed by Manchester United. At £13 million, he was the most expensive teenager in English football history, surpassing the £8 million Newcastle had paid for another Portuguese teenager, Hugo Viana. As he was shown around the hallowed grounds of Carrington and dealt with the remaining paperwork, Ronaldo was asked to choose his shirt number. He chose the number 28, the same number he wore at Sporting. But then Sir Alex Ferguson himself pulled him aside. He personally asked him to wear the number 7. This was a monumental gesture. The number 7 at Manchester United was sacred, worn by club legends like George Best, Eric Cantona, and most recently, David Beckham. Sir Alex saw in Ronaldo what the rest of the world would only witness a few years later. Ronaldo, never one to shy away from pressure, accepted the challenge. He would carry the weight of that number on his back. Just 4 days after signing his contract, Cristiano stepped onto the pitch at Old Trafford for his first match as a Red Devil. A crowd of 67,000 people roared in anticipation. In the 61st minute, Sir Alex looked down his bench and told Ronaldo to get ready. The 18-year-old, with his dyed blonde streaks, tape wrapped around both his ankles, and wearing a pair of silver mercurial vapors, came on in exchange for Nicky Butt. Chewing his gum, he stepped onto the hallowed turf, and another fairy tale began. Cristiano absolutely destroyed the Bolton defense with a seemingly never-ending repertoire of skills. His feet moved so fast it felt like they were defying the laws of physics. He was so brimming with confidence that by stoppage time he was asking senior player Phil Neville to step aside so he could take a free kick. His self-belief was never in question. By the end of the match, the legendary George Best himself would call it undoubtedly the most exciting debut he had ever seen. The last few weeks of his life felt like a frantic, dreamlike run from one meaningful day to another. Just 4 days after his electrifying debut for Manchester United, he also made his debut for the Portuguese national team in a 1-0 win over Kazakhstan. In his first season at United, he would get 40 appearances, mostly coming from the bench, managing a respectable 4 goals and 9 assists. He also made his debut in the Champions League against Stuttgart, though United would crash out of the competition in the round of 16 in a heartbreaking 3-2 aggregate defeat against a Porto side managed by a young Jose Mourinho that would go on to win the whole thing. His final 2 matches of the season were his most notorious. He scored in both, but also received his first red card in the first of the 2, a league game against Aston Villa. He then won his first trophy in the second, scoring the opening goal in the FA Cup final. As summer arrived, it was time for another massive challenge. Cristiano was called up for the Euro 2004 squad, the first ever major tournament to be played in his home country of Portugal. Imagine it. You're 19 years old and you're on a bus that's driving across your homeland. You look around, and the other men on that bus are legends. Ballon d'Or winners, Champions League winners, names known all around the world. You look out the window and you see thousands of your countrymen swarming the bus, cheering no matter how far from the stadium you are. Euro 2004 was one of the most magical and memorable moments in Portuguese football history. The entire nation came together to witness its golden generation power through the competition. Throughout that tournament, it truly felt like Portugal was playing with a 12th man on the pitch. Ronaldo was no average teenager. He refused to let himself fall under the immense pressure. In the first game, he came in from the bench and scored Portugal's only goal in a shock loss to Greece. Then they played Russia, and once again Ronaldo came on late, this time assisting Rui Costa as he doubled Portugal's lead. In the last decisive match of the group stage, they beat their rivals Spain with Ronaldo now in the starting lineup. Just like that, Portugal was 3 matches away from becoming European champions on their own turf. The quarter-final match against England started in the worst way possible as Michael Owen put England in front just 3 minutes into the game. For the next 80 minutes, the 2 teams battled fiercely until Helder Postiga, a substitute, rose to head in an equalizer. The game went into extra time and the drama didn't stop there. Rui Costa scored a screamer with 10 minutes to go, but Portugal couldn't hold on as Frank Lampard tied the match once again. It was time for the cruel lottery of penalties. David Beckham missed the first. Rui Costa missed his as well. But in the end, Portugal held their nerve, and they were through to the semi-finals where they would meet the Netherlands. This would be Ronaldo's best match of the competition. Portugal won 2-1, with Ronaldo scoring the first goal with a powerful header. and then assisting the second, leading his nation to its first ever major final at the tender age of 19. This would be a character-building moment for Cristiano. With all the odds, all the momentum, and all the passion of the nation in their favor, Portugal went into that final against Greece and lost. For the first time, the world saw Cristiano Ronaldo's raw, obsessive passion for perfection. He collapsed in the center of the pitch, unable to contain his heartbreak, and started crying uncontrollably, seeming immune to the consoling words of his teammates. In the press conference later, his face still stained with tears, he promised the Portuguese people that one day he would make up for this disappointment. His second season at United followed a similar path to his first, with not much success trophy-wise, as they only managed to win the League Cup. But it was filled with more and more sparks of brilliance from Cristiano. The most iconic moment of this season came when he faced Arsenal in early 2005. The game started with Patrick Vieira scoring after 9 minutes. Ryan Giggs equalized only for Dennis Bergkamp to give Arsenal the lead again. Right before halftime, Cristiano got into a scrap with Thierry Henry after he refused to give the ball back when it went out of bounds. This infuriated the Arsenal fans, who booed Ronaldo relentlessly for the rest of the match. Ronaldo famously once said, "Your love makes me strong, but your hate makes me unstoppable." And in that second half, he showed the world what an unstoppable Ronaldo looked like. He scored 2 goals in 4 minutes, just like that, putting Man United in front. Incredible for a 19-year-old, and even more incredible as he dared to celebrate his goal by putting a finger to his lips, telling the Arsenal fans to be quiet. The next season would be a difficult one. Ronaldo seemed to constantly find himself in trouble. In the Champions League, he traveled to Lisbon to play against Sporting's arch-rivals Benfica, who didn't spare him the usual taunts and jeers. To make matters worse, Benfica beat Manchester United, knocking them out of the Champions League in the group stage for the first time in a decade. This sent Ronaldo over the edge. As he was subbed off in the 67th minute, he raised his middle finger to the hostile fans and earned a 1-match ban for his actions. He was also found at the center of unfounded rape allegations, which were swiftly dropped as the police found no evidence, though these same allegations would follow him for over a decade. He got sent off in a Manchester derby for a reckless kick on ex-United player Andy Cole. It was also the first time Ronaldo and striker Ruud van Nistelrooy clashed, a conflict that was most likely not Ronaldo's fault, as Van Nistelrooy was known for being a problematic figure envious of Ronaldo, who seemed to have stolen his spotlight over the last few years. You might wonder where all of this erratic, angry behavior stemmed from. If you look at the timeline of Ronaldo's life, there's one clear dramatic event that directly preceded all of this: the death of his father. Denis Aveiro passed away from liver damage at just 52 years old, his body finally giving up after years of heavy drinking. Ronaldo has said that he barely knew him, that their relationship was distant. But he also said that he dreamed of the day his father would be there to see him succeed. It's hard to pinpoint the source of this desire, but it was likely a desperate hope that his success could somehow pull his father away from the dark path he was on. But it was too late. His father was gone, and his life had to move on. That summer, Ronaldo was called up for the World Cup for the first time ever. Portugal easily topped their group, winning all their matches, with Ronaldo getting his first World Cup goal against Iran. Once again, they would meet the Netherlands, this time in the last 16. This match would go down in history forever, known as the Battle of Nuremberg. The match was instantly notable for how violent the Netherlands players were, with the first yellow card coming in just the second minute. It all escalated when Dutch defender Khalid Boulahrouz committed a horrific high tackle on Ronaldo, injuring him and forcing him to be escorted off the pitch. The foul seemed intentionally excessive, and the Portuguese players were furious, clapping back with equal aggression. The match became a never-ending sequence of brutal fouls and bookings, with each challenge seemingly more horrific than the last. By the end of the match, there had been 16 yellow cards and 4 red cards, both all-time records for a single match in the competition. If you think the next round couldn't possibly match the drama of the last 16, well, you're wrong. Portugal faced England in the quarter-finals. The match was tense, and it boiled over when Wayne Rooney Ronaldo's Manchester United teammate stamped on Ricardo Carvalho. Ronaldo was seen pleading with the referee to send Rooney off, and the referee conceded, showing Rooney the red card. Rooney, furious, confronted his teammate on the pitch before being sent off. From that moment, Ronaldo became public enemy number 1 in England. And it all became so much worse when he was caught on camera winking at the Portuguese bench. Still, Portugal won the match on penalties and moved on to the semi-finals, where they would meet France. Portugal dominated the match, having twice as many shots on target and the edge in ball possession. But one single moment would define the match. Ricardo Carvalho slipped and ended up fouling Thierry Henry, leading to a penalty that Zinedine Zidane coolly converted. This defeat was even harder for the Portuguese fans to digest, because in the first minutes of the match, there was arguably a penalty that should have been awarded to Portugal, but was ignored. Back in England, Ronaldo felt overwhelmed by the hate he was receiving from the press and the public. It took a massive toll on him, especially as his own manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, didn't immediately come out to defend him. This led to a drastic decision. Ronaldo publicly announced that he wanted to leave Manchester United for either Real Madrid or Barcelona. At this moment, Ferguson was forced to intervene. He had a private heart-to-heart talk with Ronaldo and convinced him to stay. Soon it would be clear that this was one of the best decisions of his life. In his first season after the World Cup incident, despite the boos, despite the hate from every stadium he visited, Ronaldo took his game to an entirely new level. He notably showed up to the preseason looking much stronger. The fast, skillful, scrawny kid was gone. In his place was a muscular, rugged, and powerful athlete. This season, he would nearly double his previous goal-scoring record. He won consecutive Player of the Month awards. And despite all the drama, his relationship with Rooney looked better than ever on the pitch, as the duo led United to a Premier League title and showed just how capable this team was, by making it all the way to the semi-finals of the Champions League, where they would lose to an AC Milan side that was nearly unbeatable at the time. And just like that, we arrived at the 2007-2008 season. He would improve on his form even further. By the end of 2007, he had amassed 40 goal contributions in 50 games, which earned him a second-place finish in the Ballon d'Or, only behind the magnificent Kaká. But Ronaldo was never one to be happy with second place. For the rest of the season, he would show the world just how hard he could push himself. In January, he got his first-ever hat-trick for Manchester United against Newcastle. Then, he scored one of the most memorable free kicks the Premier League has ever seen against Portsmouth, a knuckleball that seemed to defy gravity. In the Champions League, he carried Manchester United through the group stage, getting 5 goals in the 5 matches he played. As they went into the knockout stages, he scored in the last 16 against Lyon, a goal which turned the tie around, granting them access to the quarter-finals, where they would destroy Roma 3-0 on aggregate, with Ronaldo scoring one more. Then, they would meet Barcelona, who would become the only team Ronaldo didn't score against in that campaign. Still, they would win on a minimal margin, as Paul Scholes scored a single spectacular goal over the 2 legs. The great players proved themselves on the biggest stages, and so far in the eyes of many, Ronaldo had failed to do that consistently. But now, it looked different. He had ascended to a new form. He looked like a new player. A complete player. It was time for the Champions League final, and Manchester United would face Chelsea in the first ever final between 2 English teams held in the pouring rain of Moscow. It didn't take long for Ronaldo to show he was there to win. By the 26th minute, he soared through the air, towering over the defenders, and met a cross with a magnificent header to get the first goal of the match. Man United would absolutely dominate the game. Chelsea only kept themselves afloat as their goalkeeper, Petr Cech, saved them over and over again. But against the run of play, Frank Lampard managed to poke home Chelsea's only shot on target after 2 consecutive lucky deflections. By pure chance, they had tied the game. They managed to hold on to the draw, and the match would be decided on penalties. Despite his great performance throughout the match, Ronaldo would miss his penalty. The tension rose to an unbearable level as John Terry, Chelsea's captain, came to the spot to take his penalty, knowing that if he scored, Chelsea would be champions of Europe. And then, he slipped. Quite literally. As they went into sudden death, Edwin van der Sar would save Nicolas Anelka's penalty, and Manchester United were crowned champions of Europe. It took years of crafting his body, of evolving his game, of developing the strongest mindset football has ever seen. But Ronaldo had finally ascended. He was a champion of Europe, the top scorer of the Champions League, and was voted player of the match in the final. Domestically, he was just as dominant, leading Man United to a second consecutive Premier League title as he beat the all-time record for most goals in a Premier League season with 31, despite missing 3 matches due to being banned after headbutting a player at the start of the season. He would total an astonishing 51 goal involvements in 49 matches across all competitions. That year, he would win nearly everything a player can possibly win, including his first Ballon d'Or, where he managed to get nearly 200 more points than the second-place finisher, a young man by the name of Lionel Messi. This would certainly not be the last time these two would fight for that title. And so, the king was crowned. But a new challenger was rising in Barcelona, and this was just the beginning of the greatest rivalry football has ever seen. We'll be telling the stories of all the legends from that era, the battles, the triumphs, the heartbreaks. So make sure you're subscribed, because you won't want to miss a single chapter in the history of the beautiful game. It was time for another Portuguese assault at the Euros. This would be a very meaningful competition for Ronaldo, as it would be the first time he would captain the national team and the first time he would put on the iconic number 7 shirt for his country, as the legendary Luis Figo had retired. Despite this, the tournament would not go Portugal's way. Although they breezed through the group stage, they would meet Germany in the quarter-finals, a team that has been known to always cause Portugal trouble. And, as usual, Portugal would be knocked out in a 3-2 loss. During these last few months, Real Madrid had started a public pursuit of Ronaldo. Man United, fearful of losing their star player, took legal action trying to stop Ronaldo from leaving. At first, there were public problems between the club and the player, leading to then FIFA President Sepp Blatter outrageously calling the situation modern-day slavery. It would all end with Ferguson once again convincing Ronaldo to stay for just one more year, with Ronaldo promising the fans that he had committed his heart and soul to retaining the Champions League trophy. Unfortunately, he would start the season poorly, missing 11 games due to a fractured kneecap. Despite this, when he returned, he looked as powerful as ever, even getting 2 free-kick goals in the same match for the first time in his career, something he would incredibly manage to do 3 times over the next 3 years. At the end of the year, he would win the Club World Cup, getting an assist in the final. In the Champions League, they would once again look to be one of the strongest teams in Europe. First, they beat Inter Milan, with Ronaldo scoring the second goal. Then, they would meet Porto, who stunned them in the first leg, managing a 2-2 draw at Old Trafford. This tie would only be broken by Ronaldo in ludicrous fashion. Only 6 minutes into the second leg, he received the ball about 4 meters in front of the center circle. And with no second thoughts, no hesitation, he unleashed a thunderbolt that flew into the top corner, leaving the Porto goalkeeper Helton with absolutely no chance. By the end of the year, This goal would be worthy of the first ever Puskás Award and will forever be remembered as one of the most insane goals ever witnessed in the Champions League. In the semi-finals, they would blaze through Arsenal with Ronaldo scoring twice, and they had arrived at the final once again. The key moment, a match against Barcelona. Ronaldo and Messi would meet again. This time, there was no stopping him from leaving. He would be signed by Real Madrid for a world record fee of $94 million, crushing Zinedine Zidane's 8-year-long record of $77 million. That same year, the returning president Florentino Perez would also spend huge amounts of money on Kaká and Karim Benzema, as he seemed determined to recreate the success of the Los Galacticos era. His contract would make him the highest-paid footballer in the world, nearly doubling what he earned at Manchester United. This contract would also be notable for a specific clause. Real Madrid set his release clause at $1 billion. On the 6th of July 2009, Ronaldo stepped onto the pitch of the Santiago Bernabéu for the first time. The event would shatter the all-time record for the biggest audience at a player's presentation, a record set by the legendary Diego Armando Maradona. An incredible 80,000 fans awaited Cristiano Ronaldo that day. Club legend Alfredo Di Stefano would present Ronaldo with the number 9 shirt, not the number 7, as another club legend, an all-time top goal scorer. Raúl was still playing for Real at the time. Soon after, he would have his debut against Deportivo de La Coruña, scoring his first goal from the penalty spot. He would also score in his first 4 league games, becoming the first ever player to do so for Real Madrid. In his Champions League debut for Real, he scored 2 free kicks. His blazing start to the season would be stopped short as he suffered an ankle injury, leaving him out for 7 weeks. As he returned, it was time for the Ballon d'Or ceremony, where Messi would outperform him for the first time, with Ronaldo only managing 2nd place. Despite Ronaldo managing an incredible 7 goals in 6 Champions League matches, Real would be knocked out of the competition in the round of 16. By the last game of the season, Real and Barcelona had only a 1-point difference between them, but Real would draw their last match, collecting 96 points. Despite the 2nd place finish, this point tally would have been enough to beat the record for most points in a season if it were not for Pep Guardiola's legendary Barcelona side managing an unheard of 99. In this way, despite his great performances, managing 39 goal involvements in 35 games, Ronaldo would end his first season with Real Madrid without winning a single trophy. I try to be competitive hard and try to win. I'm like that, I'm not. I never change, because I like this. I like what I do. 2 years had passed since the last international competition, and it was time for the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. Ronaldo would be named man of the match in all 3 matches of the group stage, but once again Portugal would be knocked out by their rivals Spain in the first knockout round. Spain would go on to win the competition. By now Raúl had left Real Madrid, and naturally Ronaldo would take on the legendary number 7 shirt. He would start the season on a roll, scoring 4 goals in a single game for the first time in his career against Racing Santander. He would also get 3 more hat-tricks before the Ballon d'Or ceremony. But he still wouldn't even make the podium, despite getting an unbelievable 65 goal contributions in 59 games that year. This was probably the best individual performance ever, not to be rewarded with a spot on the Ballon d'Or podium. That year, Real Madrid got paired up with Barcelona in both the Champions League and the Copa del Rey, while also playing them for the league, totaling 4 El Clasico matches in the same month. Ronaldo would score in the league game to tie the match. Then he would score the only goal in the final of the Copa del Rey, a magnificent towering header, in extra time to bring the trophy back to Madrid. But he would fail to save Real Madrid in the Champions League, as Barcelona knocked them out before going on to win the tournament. Before the end of the season, he would score 3 more hat-tricks, including 4 goals in 1 game against Sevilla, Once again, despite managing 92 points, as Ronaldo shattered the goal-scoring record in the league, becoming the first ever player to get 40 league goals, Real would not win the league. Still, Ronaldo would become the first ever player to win the Golden Boot in 2 different major leagues. As if 40 league goals seemed impossible to repeat, Ronaldo would manage 46 the following season and would finally lead Real Madrid to win the league, getting 100 points and smashing the all-time record. Ronaldo would total out an incredible 60 goals in all competitions, that season 10 of them in the Champions League, in which Real got knocked out in the semi-finals, once again, as 2 goals from Ronaldo weren't enough to save them against Bayern Munich. This season would be most notable for Ronaldo scoring the winning goal in El Clásico at the Camp Nou and delivering the iconic calma celebration. In the Euro 2012, Portugal got drawn into the group of death, including Germany and the Netherlands. Still, they would make it through as Ronaldo scored twice, turning the game around against the Dutch national team. Ronaldo would be man of the match against the Czech Republic as he scored the only goal of the match to get Portugal to the semi-finals, where they would once again face Spain. It would be a very tight, tense game. Ronaldo stood out, getting close to scoring on several occasions, but no one could get the ball in the net, and the game would go on to penalties. It would all be over as Bruno Alves hit the crossbar, and Spain would be on to the final, leaving everyone with a gut-wrenching feeling that Portugal deserved more, especially as Portugal had thrashed them 4-0 in their previous friendly match. It had been years of a massive, heartbreaking disappointments for Ronaldo. Messi had taken the last 3 Ballon d'Ors and was bound to take the next, as Ronaldo kept losing just inches away from glory. The next season would be the start of a shift. Ronaldo would become a more deadly, more decisive version of himself. In the start of the season, he would score 2 goals to get Real Madrid the Super Cup as they faced Barcelona. Then he would get his first Champions League hat-trick against Ajax. Later in the year, he would get a brace in El Clásico, becoming the first ever player to score in 6 consecutive El Clásicos. In 2013, he would captain Real Madrid for the first time and then also become the first ever non-Spanish player to captain Real Madrid in an El Clásico for 60 years. Regardless of his individual performances, he would fail to win La Liga and would once again fail to go past the semi-finals in the Champions League, going down to Jurgen Klopp's Dortmund, despite scoring 12 goals that season, 7 of them in the 6 knockout matches he played. The next season, he would be joined by Gareth Bale, who cost Real Madrid $100 million, beating Ronaldo's transfer record. This would begin the reign of the BBC Madeira, Madrid's fearsome front 3 consisting of Bale, Benzema, and Cristiano. Ronaldo would start the season with an unbelievable 32 goals in 22 matches. The most memorable moments came from an international playoff against Sweden. The media took the opportunity to heavily market this match as a direct confrontation between Ronaldo and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, as both national teams were known to heavily rely on their star players. In the first leg, Ronaldo would score the only goal, giving the lead to Portugal. But the second leg would prove to be much more eventful. The match started very calm, but it would only truly ignite in the second half. A beautiful through pass by João Moutinho was followed by a great run by Ronaldo, and he would make it 1-0. Ibrahimovic didn't shy away from the confrontation this time, going on to score twice in 4 minutes, first with a header and then with a powerful free kick that went under the wall. Great moments come when great players are put under immense pressure to perform. And that is just what happened that day. Ronaldo would follow Zlatan's lead and get a second goal with a lightning-fast run before getting his hat-trick and securing Portugal's spot at the World Cup. As the year came to an end, he would total an incredible 86 goal contributions in 59 appearances. Truly undeniable. He would once again manage to top Messi and win his second Ballon d'Or. The rest of the season would be even more impressive, Despite losing the league title to Atletico Madrid, who managed just 3 more points internationally, it would be one of his most memorable years. He immediately started well, scoring a hat-trick in the first Champions League game of the season against Galatasaray. Then 2 goals against Copenhagen and another 2 against Juventus. To finish it all, 1 each against both Juventus and Copenhagen when he met them for the second time. If he had not missed the game against Galatasaray, he could have become the first ever player to score in all matches of the group stage. In the last 16, he would score 4 against Schalke to total out at 13 goals. This was already more than he had ever scored in a single campaign, and only Messi had ever managed more throughout an entire tournament, despite Ronaldo still being only in the round of 16. Then, despite missing one of the matches against Dortmund, he would still manage to score against them. He went on to meet Bayern in the semi-finals, where he would score twice against them, to become the first ever player to break the 15-goal mark in a single season, to which he would add another legendary celebration. It was time for the final, where they would meet their city rivals, Atletico Madrid, the same team that had just pipped them to the league title. This would be Real Madrid's chance to win their 10th ever Champions League trophy, the locals called La Décima. Their decade-long search for this trophy had become the stuff of legends. The final would be played in Portugal at the Estádio da Luz, where Portuguese legend Eusébio had had his funeral earlier that year, a man who was one of Ronaldo's favorite players and had been a mentor to him over the years with the national team. The pressure was on. And to make matters even worse for Ronaldo, he got injured just before the match. Everyone expected him to miss it, but Ronaldo has made a habit of being exceptional. To this day, he would say, "In life you do not win without sacrifices, and you must take risks." He would go on to play the final through the pain of his injury. The game would start in the worst way possible, as Diego Godin gave Atletico the lead. The game progressed with Atletico defending for their lives all the way to the very last minute of stoppage time without a change to the score sheet. As Atletico fans prepared to start celebrating, Luka Modric stepped up to take a corner, and the rest will never be forgotten. Sound of roaring crowd and commentary. Water, yes, Sergio Ramos, unbelievable. In the nick of time, Gary Neville, Sergio Ramos absolutely broke the spirit of the Atletico Madrid players. The extra time would be a massacre. First Marcelo, then Bale, and then Ronaldo, with a penalty to end it all. Madrid were champions of Europe. Ronaldo finished the tournament with 17 goals, by far the most ever scored by anyone in a single season. Despite only 2 other players in history ever managing more than 12, Ronaldo had managed to absolutely destroy those records. That day, Ronaldo certainly made Eusébio proud. May the Black Panther never be forgotten. As per usual, it was time for the World Cup. This would be Ronaldo's most underwhelming tournament, as he forced himself to play in it despite suffering from 2 different injuries. One of them, a knee injury, would change his career forever massively, hurting his explosive pace and dribbling ability. But the greats always manage to overcome whatever is put between them and their goals. In that tournament, he was so physically poor that he had to quit practice twice in the days before the opening match, where Portugal would get destroyed 4 in a row by Germany. He would then still manage to save Portugal from a loss against the United States with a last-minute pinpoint assist, and then get them a late win as he scored in the final few minutes of their match against Ghana. But it would not be enough. Portugal would be knocked out of the tournament on goal difference. In the next season, Ronaldo would maintain his blistering form, scoring both goals as Real beat Sevilla 2-0 in the UEFA Super Cup, and then going on to score 15 goals in the first 8 matches in the league. He would end the year by winning the Club World Cup before going on to win his 3rd Ballon d'Or. The 2014 to 2015 season would be the least impressive of his last 5 at Real Madrid. They would finish second in the league and would go out in the semi-finals of the Champions League, as Juventus beat them by a single goal, despite Ronaldo scoring in both legs against them and managing to finish as the top scorer of the tournament. He would also score 5 goals in a single match for the first time in his career, and even managed to score an 8-minute hat-trick against Granada. When it comes to goal scoring, the season would be one of his most impressive, as he would win the Golden Shoe once again and would beat his own personal goal-scoring record, managing to score an incredible 61 goals that season, being involved in 82 across the 54 matches he played. Keep in mind that by then, he was already 30 years old. That just shouldn't be possible. After this season, Zinedine Zidane would take over as manager, and he would completely change how Ronaldo played. He would show him that with his age coming into play, he would lose his explosiveness, and that he had to switch to a more central predatory role where he did not depend on his raw physical strength as much, and where he could develop his already world-class deadliness in front of goal. In summary, Zidane created a monster. By the beginning of the 2015-2016 season, Ronaldo would get his 324th goal for Real Madrid, becoming their all-time top scorer. It had taken 16 seasons and 741 matches for the legendary Raul to achieve this mark. It only took Ronaldo a little more than 6 seasons and 310 matches to overtake him, as he managed an average of more than 1 goal per game played. From the start of this Champions League venture under Zidane, Ronaldo would look virtually unbeatable. He managed to score 11 goals in the 6 group stage matches he played. No player had ever even managed to reach double figures in the group stage. Then he would score in both legs against Roma. But oddly enough, their next game against underdogs Wolfsburg would prove to be their most challenging. The first leg in Germany was a disaster, with Real losing 2-0. They needed a historic comeback in the second leg at the Bernabeu, and of course one man had to put his foot forward and show everyone how to be truly decisive. By the 17th minute of the second leg, Ronaldo had already scored twice, first a tap-in and then a powerful header from a corner. They needed just one more goal. This time around, Ronaldo would be more patient. And by the 77th minute, it would be worth the wait. A free kick. Sound of commentator, Cristiano Ronaldo, beautiful, beautiful. Something close to genius, he's turned the tie around. This could have been his most legendary Champions League campaign, but he would once again suffer fitness issues, missing out on the semi-final matches. He would, however, come back in time for the final, where once again they would face Atletico de Madrid. This would be the opposite of the first final. This time, Sergio Ramos would score early, and Atletico Madrid would get the equalizer later on. But Real wouldn't budge in the same way Atletico did in 2014. The game would go all the way to the penalty shootout. Ronaldo would save himself for the last decisive penalty. By the 4th penalty for Atletico, Juan Fran would miss hitting the post to give Real the advantage. It was time for Ronaldo to take on the penalty spot. And as per usual, he buried it, breaking Atletico's hearts once again. Champions of Europe. It seemed like the perfect season, but this was nowhere near its peak. In the summer, Ronaldo would take on the Euro 2016. No one gave Portugal much of a chance, as they had one of their most underwhelming lineups in decades. But someone once said, "When you have Ronaldo, you always have a chance." The first 2 games were incredibly underwhelming, as Portugal only managed 2 draws against Iceland and Austria. Still, Portugal only depended on themselves to go through. As long as they beat Hungary, they would have a spot in the knockout stages. But the game started horribly, as Portugal conceded in the 19th minute. It would take a while for Portugal to clap back, as Ronaldo assisted Nani for a goal in the 42nd minute. But it wouldn't last long, as Hungary would score again just 5 minutes later. The back and forth wouldn't stop, as Ronaldo would level the game once more with a superb instinctive backheel goal. Once again, the tie would only be kept for another 5 minutes as Hungary got the lead again. The coach Fernando Santos would sub in Ricardo Quaresma, Ronaldo's longtime friend, known for their incredible connection on the pitch. The duo wouldn't disappoint. With Quaresma's first touch of the ball, he would cross it to Ronaldo, who would head it in to settle the score at a thrilling 3-3 draw. Portugal scraped through in third place, barely making it to the last 16. There, Portugal and Croatia would prove themselves to be worthy opponents as the game went into extra time with no goals scored. Once again, the duo would solve the game. Ronaldo got a shot on target, and Quaresma was there to tap in the rebound to take Portugal to the quarterfinals. Portugal still hadn't managed to win a single game over 90 minutes, and their match against Poland would not be the case either. Robert Lewandowski would score in the second minute. But the game would end in a tie as 18-year-old Renato Sanchez would score the equalizer. On penalties, Portugal would take the win as Rui Patricio saved Błaszczykowski's effort before Quaresma would score to capitalize on the mistake. Portugal were through to the semi-finals, where they would finally win a game in regular time as Ronaldo got a goal and an assist in under 3 minutes to kill the game against Wales. 12 years later, Ronaldo had another shot at a Euro final. From an 18-year-old kid uncontrollably crying on the pitch to a grown 31-year-old master of his craft. Unfortunately, the final would have a similarly catastrophic start. Ronaldo would have to come out injured after just 25 minutes. Most players would let themselves crumble, wallowing in their own misery, but not Ronaldo. He rose. He stood on the sideline next to his manager and spent the entire match limping, yelling commands and passionately coaching his teammates from the sidelines like a true captain. By the 79th minute, a striker named Eder would be told to come in. Ronaldo took it upon himself to motivate him before he walked onto the pitch. Ronaldo told him, "I know you have it in you. I know you will score the winning goal." Ronaldo gave him the strength, the energy he needed. And those are not my words, but Eder's own, as in extra time, he would do just that. Sound of commentator, he's not got much help. Oh, he doesn't need any help, Eder. The man who rarely scores has scored maybe the biggest goal in the history of the Portugal national team. And finally, Portugal had become European champions. The greatest night of Cristiano Ronaldo's career, which had the worst possible start, showing the world that you should truly never give up, no matter how unlikely your success might seem. Ronaldo would finish the tournament with the highest ever percentage of goal contribution in a victorious run, as he was directly involved in 66% of the goals scored by Portugal over the tournament. Still, he would not win Player of the Tournament. That image of him, injured, but more passionate than anyone coaching from the sidelines. It's pure inspiration. If this moment moved you, share this story with someone who needs to hear that you should never, ever give up. And tell me which other national hero's journey deserves to be told next. Due to the injury picked up during the Euro 2016 final, he would miss the first 3 matches of the next season, including the European Super Cup. This would be a wild card year in terms of his performances. Ronaldo would destroy the Club World Cup, even becoming the first ever player to score a hat-trick in the final. But in the Champions League, he would be on some of his worst form ever. Despite scoring in the first 2 matches, he would go on a 6-match dry streak all the way to the quarterfinals. Messi would be on 11 goals already by then, 9 ahead of Ronaldo. It seemed impossible that he could catch him now that the competition was so hard. But there is no such thing as impossible when it comes to Cristiano Ronaldo. In the next match, he would face Bayern Munich, and he would score twice to get the comeback for Real Madrid, who had started the game by conceding. In the second leg, he would prove to be even more deadly, as he got a perfect hat-trick. That's 5 goals in 2 matches against the unbeatable Manuel Neuer, as he seemed to have acquired a taste for ripping world-class goalkeepers to shreds. He would score another hat-trick as he faced Atletico Madrid and their star goalkeeper, Jan Oblak. Soon, it would be time for the final. They would face Juventus, and Ronaldo needed just one goal to get on level terms with Lionel Messi as the tournament's top scorer. Between Ronaldo and that achievement stood not only Gianluigi Buffon, one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time, but also one of the greatest defensive formations of the decade. As Ronaldo came onto the pitch, it would only take him one touch to get his first goal. This man was taking on the impossible and playing around with it as if the world meant nothing to him. He would score one more goal before the end of the match to get his tally up to 12 goals, one more than Lionel Messi with 10 of them, coming in his last 5 matches against some of the biggest names in European football. This would be the 5th consecutive season he would be the top scorer of the Champions League. To add to this perfect season, he would also win La Liga for the 2nd time. In the summer, Ronaldo would take part in the Confederations Cup. But it would be a disaster, as Portugal would lose the first knockout match on penalties against Chile, and Ronaldo would even leave the competition early, as his twin children had just been born. He would take part in a memorable Spanish Super Cup at the start of the season. He started from the bench, being brought on later. He would have a massive impact on the match. He quickly got his first goal, but it was called offside, to which he would protest, but not for long. Soon Messi tied the match from the penalty spot, but Ronaldo would instantly clap back with a magnificent run, ending with a thunderous shot from outside the box. He would celebrate the goal by iconically taking off his shirt and showing the name on his back to the Barcelona supporters in the same fashion Messi had done in the previous El Clasico. As per the rules, he got a yellow card for it. Ronaldo seemed on fire, as he would go on to nearly score just 2 minutes later, only being stopped as Samuel Umtiti shoved him in the penalty box. As the commentator shouted, "Penalty!" the referee would somehow come to the conclusion that Ronaldo had simulated a foul and would give him his 2nd yellow card, sending him off. Ronaldo would understandably be frustrated and would go on to push the referee. Just like that, what could have been the perfect night was ruined by a controversial refereeing decision. To make matters worse, he would be banned for 5 games. Despite this, Ronaldo would maintain his form, as he would once again look to do the impossible in the Champions League. As for him, winning it 3 times in 4 years wasn't enough. He would start the Champions League with 2 goals against Apoel, then 2 goals against Dortmund, then 1 in each of the 2 matches against Tottenham, another 2 against Apoel, and he would end the group stage with another 1 against Dortmund, to total 9 goals in 6 matches, becoming the first ever player to score in all of the group stage matches. It would still not be enough for Ronaldo. He would score 3 goals in the last 16 against PSG, including a puzzling penalty where he would hit the ground with such force that the ball would actually rise from the spot before he struck it. Before this, Ronaldo would also travel to Paris, where he would receive his 5th Ballon d'Or in a special ceremony set on the Eiffel Tower. This meant he had finally equaled Messi as the player with the most awards. The quarterfinals that year were some of the most important and memorable matches of Ronaldo's career. He would once again face Juventus, who had come to be some of his favorite opponents, and he would show them just why. In under 3 minutes, Ronaldo opened the score sheet. They were truly hopeless when facing him. Juventus were brave, worthy opponents, but Ronaldo was their boogeyman. By then, Juventus supporters were already contemplating whether or not they could have any hard feelings for such a great player, and Ronaldo would show them that they surely couldn't. In the 64th minute, he would score the most iconic goal of his career. After managing a magnificent run to catch a ball that seemed lost, Ronaldo passed it back to Lucas Vazquez, who shot. As Buffon's save deflected the ball towards Dani Carvajal, he would cross it, and Ronaldo would perform the most technically perfect bicycle kick football has ever seen. Like an Olympic gymnast, Ronaldo seemed to be in total control of his body as he flew through the air. As he celebrated, the Juventus supporters rose to their feet and applauded him. His genius was too evident to be overlooked. Later in the game, even Buffon would congratulate him jokingly, asking him how old he was. To which he would reply, Not too bad for a 33-year-old, huh? The second leg would prove itself to be equally thrilling, as Mario Mandzukic would inspire Juventus to a comeback leveling the tie. But just before the end of the 90 minutes, Ronaldo would salvage the ball, towering over Alexandro. Lucas Vazquez would be left in front of goal, and Mehdi Benatia would have no choice but to foul him. Buffon, who had never won a Champions League, would lose his mind as he watched the opportunity once again be taken away from him, which would lead him to be sent off after cursing out the referee. Wojciech Szczęsny would take his place in goal, where he would not be able to stop Ronaldo, who hammered the penalty into the top corner in the 98th minute to get Real onto the semi-finals. This would be Ronaldo's 11th consecutive game scoring in the Champions League, destroying Ruud van Nistelrooy's previous record of 9 consecutive games. Ronaldo would be heavily marked in the semi-finals, as Bayern knew what kind of form he was in. Because of this, he would not manage to score against them. Still, Real would barely edge out the Germans and make it once again to the Champions League final. The final would follow the same story as the semi-finals, but a horrendous performance by Liverpool goalkeeper Loris Karius would make it easy for Real, who would take their 3rd consecutive Champions League trophy, something that hadn't happened in 42 years. Ronaldo would once again be top scorer, as he managed the second-best tally ever seen, only outdone by his own record, with 15 goals in that season. This final would be marked by Ronaldo hinting for the first time that this might have been his last ever match for Real Madrid. Amongst all the rumors he had brought upon himself, he would go on to take part in the World Cup 2018. The competition would start as Portugal faced their rivals Spain, and that match would start in the best way possible, as Ronaldo would be fouled in the penalty box in the first play of the match. Evidently, he would convert his chance putting Portugal in front. Later on, the match would be tied by Diego Costa, but Ronaldo would clap back with a goal from outside the box that was made easier by a mistake from David De Gea. Diego Costa would be Ronaldo's nemesis that day, as he would score once again to tie the match for a second time. This time Ronaldo wouldn't be able to respond quickly enough, as Spain would score again through a powerful strike by Nacho. The key moment would come in the 88th minute. Ronaldo would step up to take a free kick, and as per usual, he would not disappoint. He curled it into the top corner to snatch a draw just before full time. This would be remembered as the best performance of the World Cup, as he became the first ever player to score a hat-trick against Spain in the competition. In the second match, Portugal would face Morocco and beat them with a single goal by Cristiano. The last match would end in a tie, and Portugal would qualify for the last 16, where they would fall short and lose by 1 goal against Uruguay. After the World Cup, the rumors would be proven true. Ronaldo would leave Real Madrid for $112 million. The cheers from the Juventus fans must have truly touched his heart, as the 33-year-old Ballon d'Or winner would travel to Italy to join them. This meant he was the most expensive player ever, over 30 years of age, and Italy's most expensive ever transfer. In his first season, his numbers would drop, but he would certainly not disappoint, scoring all of Juventus's Champions League knockout stage goals, the second most of any player in the competition, despite only making it to the quarterfinals. As much as he tried, it was impossible to carry Juventus all the way. His most iconic game would come in the last 16 round, though. Juventus lost the first leg by 2 goals against Atletico Madrid. It seemed like they would finally get their revenge on Cristiano Ronaldo, who was notoriously their nemesis. Just take into consideration that ever since Diego Simeone began to coach Atletico Madrid, they have only ever been knocked out of the Champions League by teams that included Cristiano Ronaldo. It had been 4 knockout ties between them, and Ronaldo always took the victory. Not only that, but they have never conceded a hat-trick to any other player than Cristiano, who had done it 4 different times. And, well, as you probably already know, this time it would be no different. By the 27th minute, a powerful gravity-defying jump would allow him to get his first goal. After halftime, another header would give them the 2-0 lead. Despite Oblak getting his hand on it, it was too late as goal line technology showed it had crossed the line. As Juventus needed a third goal, Ronaldo would once again be the hat-trick hero, scoring from the penalty spot in the 86th minute. No emotion shown. Ronaldo slammed it past Oblak. In his first year in Italy, he would win Best Forward and Best Player in the league, as he took home the Supercoppa and Serie A titles, becoming the first ever player to win league titles in England, Spain, and Italy. In the summer, Ronaldo would take on an all-new challenge as Portugal qualified for the Final Four of the inaugural Nations League. First, they would take on Switzerland. Ronaldo would deliver his usual magic, scoring a hat-trick to get Portugal into the final. There, Gonçalo Guedes scored the only goal, and Ronaldo would climb the stage to lift Portugal's second-ever international trophy. Ronaldo would finish as the top scorer of the competition and win best goal of the competition, as every single goal on the podium had been scored by him. That's the definition of dominance. And just like that, we arrive at the present, where Ronaldo, even at 35 years old, continued to shatter records. He became Europe's top scorer, having scored for 11 straight league games to tie the all-time record in Serie A, and managing to score or assist in every single game from the 1st of December all the way to the 16th of July. By the end of the league season, he would win it once more, while also becoming the first ever Juventus player to score 30-plus league goals since 1952, and becoming their all-time record holder for the most goals in a single season with 37. Despite once more getting knocked out early in the Champions League after an amazing performance against Lyon, he would once again finish the season as the only player to score for his team in the Champions League knockout stage. The summer of 2021, you could feel the electricity in the air, a buzz that hadn't been felt for years. Cristiano Ronaldo, the prodigal son, was coming home. After 12 long years away conquering Spain and Italy, he was returning to Old Trafford. The theater of dreams was ready to believe again. For the fans, the Red Devils faithful, this wasn't just a transfer. It was a promise. A return to the glory days, a sign that the club was ready to fight for the throne once more. Hope wasn't just in the air. It was a roaring fire. And in that first season back, the 2021 to 2022 campaign, Ronaldo proved the fire was justified. He wasn't just a nostalgic signing. He was the beating heart of the team. He became the main man, the one they looked to when the chips were down. He scored 24 goals across all competitions, a staggering 18 in the relentless pace of the Premier League. At 37 years old, an age when most players are hanging up their boots, CR7 was delivering masterclass after masterclass. You remember them, don't you? Those crucial hat tricks under the Old Trafford lights, the roar of the crowd as he wheeled away in celebration. Those last-minute decisive goals that single-handedly dragged Manchester United to valuable points. He was without a doubt the club's player of the season, a lone warrior shining brightly. But that was the problem. He was shining alone. While Ronaldo's individual brilliance was undeniable, the team around him was crumbling. The bigger picture for Manchester United was bleak, painted in shades of disappointment. The season ended in a painful drought, no trophies, no glory. They stumbled to a 6th-place finish in the league, a result that meant they wouldn't even hear the iconic anthem of the UEFA Champions League the following year. The dream was quickly souring. Then came the 2022-2023 season, and with it, a new manager, Erik ten Hag. The conflict that had been simmering beneath the surface began to boil over. Suddenly, Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the greatest to ever play the game, was no longer a guaranteed starter. He was on the bench, a frustrated figure watching the game pass him by. The breaking point, the moment of no return, was a bombshell interview with journalist Piers Morgan in November 2022. The gloves came off. Ronaldo went public criticizing the club's leadership, the facilities, and the manager himself. He spoke of feeling betrayed, The words echoed around the football world like a thunderclap. Shortly after the inevitable happened, Manchester United and Cristiano Ronaldo mutually agreed to terminate his contract. The homecoming was over. The second chapter at Old Trafford closed, not with a trophy, but with a bitter, unfinished handshake. So here's a question for you all. When a legend clashes with a club who is truly in the right, was Ronaldo justified in speaking his truth? Or should he have respected the manager's new vision, no matter how difficult? Drop your honest thoughts on this clash in the comments below. After the explosive exit from Manchester, the football world held its breath. Where would he go next? The answer sent shockwaves from Europe to the Middle East. In January 2023, Cristiano Ronaldo decided to join Al Nassr in the Saudi Pro League. This wasn't just a transfer, it was a statement. It was a historic moment that transcended sport, a move whose commercial value and influence would literally change the map of world football, paving the way for a flood of superstars to follow him to the desert. In his new home under the Arabian sun, Ronaldo didn't just adapt, he thrived. That formidable, insatiable hunger for goals, it was as sharp as ever. Despite joining halfway through the 2022-2023 season, he immediately made his mark, smashing in 14 goals in just 16 league matches. But it was the next season, the 2023-2024 campaign, that truly silenced any doubters. This was a breakout year. He claimed the Saudi Pro League Golden Boot with a mind-blowing record-breaking 35 goals. Across all competitions for Al Nassr, he scored an incredible 50 times. He was the driving force, the key factor that led them to victory in the 2023 Arab Club Champions Cup. His journey is a testament to relentless ambition, a story we love telling here on Legends of Football League. If you love deep dives into the careers of icons like this, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a chapter. Now into the 2024 to 2025 season, Ronaldo continues to lead the line for Al Nassr. He is more than just their top scorer. He is their spiritual leader, the standard bearer, his work ethic and determination inspiring the entire squad, while that coveted domestic league title has remained just out of reach. His influence is undeniable. He has single-handedly elevated the status, the appeal, and the global viewership of the Saudi League. And through all the club-level drama, one thing has remained constant: his unwavering commitment to his country. Cristiano Ronaldo is and remains an irreplaceable icon for the Portuguese national team. At the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, he etched his name into history yet again, becoming the first man ever to score in 5 different World Cup tournaments. A staggering achievement. Though Portugal's journey ended in a heartbreaking quarter-final defeat to Morocco, his legacy was secured. He powered through the Euro 2024 qualifiers as the team's main striker, scoring the crucial goals that saw them sail through with ease. In the UEFA Nations League, his experience and leadership remain absolutely vital to the squad's plans. Now, at an age where legends become memories, Cristiano Ronaldo continues to defy time. He demonstrates an incredible resilience, a burning desire to wrap himself in the red and green of his nation, always aiming for the next great milestone in a career that has been full of them. It doesn't matter if Cristiano Ronaldo is the greatest of all time or not. What matters is that he inspired every single person who witnessed his career and taught them that the secret to being truly extraordinary is already within you. You just have to gather all of your strength if you want to show it to the world. And that's where we leave this chapter of his incredible story. What a journey, right? I'm so eager to hear what you all think. What was the moment that gave you chills? Did his relentless drive inspire you? Please share all your opinions, your favorite goals, and any questions you still have in the comments below. I love reading every single one and building this incredible community of football lovers together with you.